Hello everybody and welcome back to another one of those videos where I talk about updates on DF from Toady1 and KitFox. In this particular video we have an article from PCGamer, which was an interview taken at GDC where they talk about adventure mode plans. So there's some new information and some old information, but I do think that this is actually a pretty good kind of combination of things presented in an article. If you'd like to simply read this article here by Wes Fenlon, there's a link down in the description of this video. Otherwise, you can hang out and hear my anecdotes as I read through the interesting bits. A grand adventure. Zach Adams says, "This is just gonna blow everyone's mind. The people who play on Steam, maybe less than half of them, even know that there is an adventure mode, and it opens up the entire world for someone to see, like you're there. You're exploring the world and seeing how giant it is. If you took a square and it was 6 by 6 feet, then the play area would be the size of New Zealand." And Tarn says, "In Fortress mode, you're just in one little part of the world. You know the rest of the world exists and you're kind of interacting with it, and you can send people out, but you can't see where they've gone." And Zach adds, "It sucks because it already exists. The Steam version already has this stuff in it, but we need to bring it to the surface and give it graphics. It's already done, we just need to bring it out." The second big chunk of the interview says that giving adventure mode more distinct quests. Zach says, "Before the Steam release was a consideration, we'd already been working on a kind of a quest system, at least adventurers' memory of where things were and what's going on. And that is kind of what we're going to start working on, I think." And Tarn responds with, "The Villains release too was kind of a reimagining of the quest system and into things that could be multi-part." So I'm going to kind of add in here a little bit and just state, for those of you who are unaware, before Premium was announced, they were working on an update called the Villains release, which added in large parts of the justice system, all of the interrogations and such, the artifact heists where people could come in and steal your artifacts, as well as changing how the hierarchy of the necromancer towers and the mummies and the other kind of evil entities that exist on the maps, changing the hierarchy of how those structures work so that instead of it just being a dude at the top in an army, it's a dude at the top with lieutenants, a dude at the top with captains and commanders, and a dude at the top with multiple levels of dudes underneath them. And those lieutenants and commanders can take on little kind of mischievous actors who will go out and steal your items. Those are the dudes that show up and say, "I'm here to take insert artifact name here, and I will leave with it without my life, or if I need it, I don't blah, blah, blah." Those people, those are kind of your little evil villains actors, which was added in as part of part 1 of that major update. The second part was supposed to completely reinvigorate and add all of those mechanics into adventure mode, giving us access to that hierarchy and being able to create quests of that sort of your own in adventure mode, as well as supposedly in Fortress mode in some format. So that's what Tarn's talking about in regards to the Villains release. And Zach says, "It's not like a quest in a typical role-playing game. A quest is just giving an organization or a meaning to what's going on. In adventure mode in the original game, it's still on our website, you're just wandering from town to town and there'll occasionally be some quest to kill a night troll. And that's just one combat in the middle of a giant game, where you're just wandering around talking to people and them telling you, 'It is inevitable, of course,' or whatever, and we're going to have conversations make more sense and quests make more sense and that sort of thing." Tarn says, "We're going to make the world more interesting to free roam. The trick of the villain release in Fort mode, people out in the world can plot to heist your artifacts, and this is a multi-stage process where they literally have to send themselves or an agent to your fortress to turn one of your dwarves, a la spy techniques. There is a thing called mice, money, ideology, compromise, and ego, counterintelligence stuff, and they use that to flip a dwarf, and then the dwarf would go off and steal the artifact. But you wouldn't just go get it. You wouldn't even know where it was. The concept of investigation is kind of central to what we want to do with adventure mode. If something was stolen, for instance, you'd go talk to people and they'd be able to get you to find this dwarf that took it. There's a certain amount of giving of information where maybe you don't deserve it. Traditional RPGs are just horrible with that. Everyone knows everything about what's going on and people leave notes. We were thinking about people just carrying around things on them, like when a villain sends an agent to a fortress, like in the traditional RPG, they're carrying a note in their pocket signed with the villain's first initial telling them what they're supposed to do." And Zach comments, "Procedurally generated clues." And Tarn says, "Hopefully, That'll take us to our first multi-stage plots that don't last 60 hours like a big BioWare game or whatever, but we edge towards that as this system gets more robust. We've always been stuck in a weird halfway point in terms of RPG mechanics, says Tarn. Partially because we don't have magic in the game, but we do have item quality, which would be equivalent to like a D&D. Plus, we have materials and we have skills which you increase through usage, which gets you some sort of leveling component, and we also have reputation, which would be kind of like the form of gating in an RPG. You get to a certain level of reputation to open up a faction quests, for instance. It is similar in Dwarf Fortress. The more night trolls you kill, then you might get something like killing a dragon. And that's currently how it works, and we want to make it a lot more interesting. And Tarn continues to add, there's a couple of things we've already drawn, all those human hairstyles, but they don't use them. And that's really a code change, making human cultures more diverse. The thing here is that we don't know if it'll work, is procedural faces, like blown up portraits when you're talking to people. And these would go right on the dwarf character sheets too. The question is, this is pixel art, and we've got our pixel artists working with these paragraphs describing the dwarves that say their ears are wide and stuck out, and their chin is narrow. Is this going to translate in a satisfactory way to gluing these faces together with pixel art? And Zach says, it's going to be a project equal to the ramp thing we did, where we had like 50 different ways a ramp between Z levels could be configured when it's next to another ramp, next to another level, and whatnot. And Tarn says, artists haven't started yet, but they're going to have plenty of time to check it out and report back. And we have a lot of leeway here with our timetable to let the artists experiment with stuff. So kind of wrapping up this little interview, there was a few questions in there that I skipped, so if you would like to go read the whole thing for yourself, once again, the link is down in the description, and shoutouts to Wes and PCGamer for putting together this little interview for us to have a peek at. Definitely show them some love over there. And I just wanted to say that this really kind of shows that not only are they looking at adventure mode as like, this is something we need to port 1-to-1 for those of you who have gone back to older versions to try it, but this is really something that they are looking to add to. For those of you who maybe missed the villains stuff that I talked about in the earlier part of this video, villains is something that we've been waiting for quite some time. For those of you who are maybe a little bit impatient or wondering why there's been lack of updates, just remember that those of us who've been playing the game for a decade had to wait about 2 years really between updates because of the premium version's release. And right before the premium version development heavily started, we got the first half of the villains update features. So I'm sitting here going, I can't wait for the second half of the villain stuff, and if that ends up landing alongside adventure mode, I'm almost more excited for that stuff than just having adventure mode in premium, purely because of its implications for fortress mode, as well as the stuff it's going to be getting in adventure mode. I've had some people ask me recently if I plan on going back to older versions of the game to go play adventure mode, and my honest answer is no, not really. Adventure mode plays really cool in concert currently in the older versions with Fortress mode, but if you're not actively playing Fortresses, it's not that interesting as a game by itself. It's a really interesting exploration mechanic to see what's happened to your fortresses after 50 years and who's still there, and it's also a fun way to just kind of build overpowered characters within the game world and maybe go find a cool embark site. But with the finalized villains mode features on top of it, I think adventure mode is going to be something that's really, really cool, and I can't wait to see it in Dwarf Fortress on Steam, and I can't wait to see other people get their hands on it and try it for the first time. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more videos like this, check out this YouTube channel. I've got a whole lot of Dwarf Fortress related things over there, and if you would like to support my videos directly, YouTube has been making it very difficult for me to monetize as of late, so if you want to help me out directly, check out the Patreon or check out my streams on twitch.tv/BLINDIRL. I should be live within a couple hours of this video going live. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.